This is very, very exciting. Well, my name is Leslie. I had very little to do with the design of your day today. So I will take no responsibility for the greatness that's going to happen. But I was retained to help be your guide. So the members of your design team, which are parents and researchers and others and contributors, can fully participate in the day and don't need to worry about making all the transitions or giving all the directions. They've handed that responsibility to me. And I'm up for it because I knew this morning that some really very cool and wonderful work was going to happen in my hometown called Cleveland, Ohio, and that collectively together you are going to advance what we know about epilepsy and brain surgery. This is the first convening of researchers, clinicians, physicians, parents, families, and others who care about this deeply. So we want to let you know that we're going to be working hard today. I've shared with some of your designers that at the end of the day, I think you'll be excited, but I think you're going to be fatigued because there's so much thinking and listening and hearing and sharing and even deciding, deciphering, and synthesizing that will be going on, that you will have had a full brain workout and you'll be ready for another sort of meal and some rest. But today you're going to come together to understand each other. We've put it in a very nice hotel, but we ask that even though we've got these fancy, spanky lights around us and all sorts of technology, that this is meant to be an informal convening, that all ideas are good ideas, asking questions is encouraged, pausing to understand each other, and being able to be vulnerable and say, please help me, I don't understand, is probably one of the wisest things you can do today on everyone's perspective. No one in this room holds the answer. There's no silver bullet. There's no one person who can make this happen. We are here to understand each other, garner perspective, and share ideas. So again, welcome to this very important event. Welcome to a city that's warm, but not as warm as other places in the United States and around the world. And we're in air conditioning, and they will feed us at appropriate times. So life is good. You have an agenda, which is in your books. We will follow that agenda. I want to let you know that our meeting currently, if you turn back here and everybody wave to this guy, turn and so he's got pretty faces, wave. The meeting is being videotaped so that it can be captured and reprinted and everything can be done. There are some moments during this meeting that we will turn the videotape off so that you don't feel at all sort of concerned about being captured while asking something that's hard or critical or important to you. So the only purpose for this videotape is to record and so that it can be reprinted and understood and shared a lot. You will have a lot of responsibility today to participate fully. This meeting is only as good as your input, to share and query, to record remarks, and collectively, we made a very important decision sort of midstream in the design process of not using polling software that would keep your sort of votes anonymous and you would plug them in. But instead, 3 times today, we're going to break after our understanding and gather as a community over in front of that foam core board that my colleague Janine Joe has already started. And we are going to have conversations as a community. And we're going to create the mind map that represents the content of today's discussions. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to be given, believe it or not, dots, and you're going to vote with your dots as to what you are most passionate about, concerned about, and the issues you personally want to advance after all of this dialogue. We are doing this because we'd like you to walk away today with your own understanding and the perspectives of others, and you only get that through conversation, not through surveys or polling. You get it when we talk and listen and understand, and so we walk away. So though it takes a little more time to do this in community, it actually, we will, all of us at the end of the day, walk away with 100% understanding. How does that sound to you all? All right. Logistically, I will do anything to support your learning. I'm again your guide through this marvelous agenda and design that's been prepared for you by a terrific team. We have so many really wonderful people who have volunteered to be part of the content of the day, but the content is ours to create. So with that, I would like to introduce to you Monika. Please come forward, Monika. You will see if you turn, all the bios or mini bios of the individuals are in your portfolio. But Monika is the visionary, the founder, the CFO of the Brain Recovery Project and the Childhood Epilepsy Surgery Foundation, and so much more. So, Monika, it is yours. Come forward.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. My notes are on my phone, and my phone won't open because it can't connect to Wi-Fi. So I'm going to do my best to go off memory, given that I went to bed at 3 a.m. last night and got ready in the dark because my kids were still asleep. So I don't know what's going on here. Be nice. That's all I can say. I'm really excited to convene this meeting. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And as I look out into the audience, I see a lot of very friendly faces. Dr. Solorio, Dr. Kolb, you were at our 2014 scientific symposium. And when I reached out to you and said, I have this idea, can you please speak? I mean, I think your email came back to me in about 2 seconds, Dr. Solorio, which was a record. Dr. Kolb's been a friend of the organization for years. Dr. Brown at Travis, thank you for answering all my emails all the time. Dr. Paul, I promise I won't ask you to do anything more for us because you're on so many of our boards and registry. Dr. Fala, who's our son's neurosurgeon, I think he regrets the moment we walked in to his office. It was Dr. Sankar who took us in there because now we've sucked him in as well to what we're doing. All of you out here, really. I think there is an urgent need to make sure that the patient voice is heard in everything we do medically, and of course, most importantly for our community in the world of epilepsy surgery. I'll talk a little bit about our journey. How do I forward? Green button. Don't have my reading glasses with me. Oh, the big green button. So this is my son, Henry. He was, and I'm just going to quickly talk about him. He was born, he's my first. I had him when I was 39. We waited a little bit with hemimegalencephaly. And in retrospect, I'm pretty sure he was seizing in utero because he had his first seizure at about 30 hours. I didn't know you could remove half a child's brain to stop seizures, and I remember when the neonatologist said, well, your kid's going to have half his brain removed, and I just rewound really fast back to high school anatomy and college anatomy, and I just looked at him and I said, isn't he going to need that? I mean, that was the only response that I had. That's the only way I could process it. Dr. Mathern, who was his original neurosurgeon, likes to show this photograph when he was doing grand rounds, when he was still operating, because we have this t-shirt called I Train Brain Surgeons, which I think is really cute. And he just had, I think, his 10th brain surgery with Dr. Fala for a shunt revision. So for some of us, this is not just one procedure that we look at. It's sort of quite a few that can come from these surgeries, which is really what we want to start talking about today, is the good and the bad of the functional outcomes, which we feel is very important for parents to understand when they're making the decision whether to have surgery. So how did we start thinking about this? When we first entered the community of hemispherectomy, it was just a Yahoo group of hemimegalencephaly parents, which Holly Powie started here. Holly and I have been friends for a really long time. And then when Facebook came around, that changed everything. It really did, because it provides parents with a community. Yes, there are some things about Facebook that are bad, some advice, so to speak, that's probably not the right thing, but when your child is born with something as rare as hemimegalencephaly, it's really empowering to then join a group of 584 parents internationally who all have a child with the same condition. The Hemispherectomy Foundation is represented here as well. They have 2,600 parent members primarily, posting questions all the time about things, whether it be, should my kid have a surgery, to behavioral problems, endocrine challenges, all the other things that we start to see down the road. Pediatric Epilepsy Surgery Support is a closed group of a broader community of parents of kids who need epilepsy surgery at 1,835 members. So it's with this that we started to understand, well, hold on a second. Yes, the surgery stops the seizures in about 75% or so of the children. And again, we're talking about large resections, hemispherectomy, these big procedures. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes on afterwards that can be really frightening and challenging for us down the road, that we really don't understand what the lifelong implications are. We have a community advisory council that we assembled last year that meets 4 times a year telephonically. And I asked them to really start helping us in terms of our web content, the programs that we offer. And one of the resounding themes was that parents want more information, not less. That the current websites, hospital websites especially, really sort of gloss over a lot of the things. So if you look at, again, hemispherectomy is what I know best because that's what my son has had. If you look at some of the hospital websites, it might say, oh yeah, and then you're going to have peripheral vision loss and a hemiparesis. A weak hand is what we were told. Hemiparesis is a lot of other stuff as well. So it's not just a weak hand. For our son, it's a cascade of orthopedic surgeries that have occurred because of that hemiparesis. Yes, there are some kids that don't need surgery that do quite well, but I think what Facebook has told us, it's over and over again that they start to have problems orthopedically. Parents don't understand that peripheral vision medically is a very different meaning than what a layperson understands as side vision. It's actually half your vision. I'd say 80% of our parents in our community do not understand that it's a vision loss that is half the visual field. And this is really just touching upon just some of the really basic things. Organizationally, I would not say that we are proponents of epilepsy surgery. We are proponents of the common themes that you should have a surgical evaluation after 2 failed medications, that if your child is drug resistant or if they're born with a condition that is known to be drug resistant, that really you have to be looking at surgery as your option. I am a proponent of surgery for my son. We call it a triple hemispherectomy. I know you can't remove 3 hemispheres, but in our community we count the number of times as 1 surgery. So 2 failed and then 1 final anatomical. Holly, I think you guys are at 4, and another family that we know just had 5. So we like to compete, some of us moms. I'm only at 3. So again, we understand that surgery is critical for these children. It's really the only option, but navigating the functional implications in the dark is really quite terrifying and frustrating. So hopefully here today we'll move forward on the first step, which is, where are we? What does the research say about functional outcomes? What can we do organizationally to start providing knowledge translation summaries for all of you out there so that when you're counseling families that you can provide them with this information. Then the next step, hopefully by our 2021 meeting, we can start to align on research to help improve those outcomes, which is what our main focus at the Brain Recovery Project is. Just a couple of things that come up on Facebook. Parent surprise, confirmed by an endocrinologist that the child is in precocious puberty after epilepsy surgery. Very surprising. Our son is 12, he's a Tanner stage 5 as of age 9. Behavioral issues, very challenging, something that will come up. I understand that if the child is still seizing, that behavioral issues are more likely, Dr. Musa, I believe it was your paper at 2014. We call your papers the Musa papers, kind of like the Pentagon papers, so our team knows to look at the Musa papers. What do the Musa papers say? But not all children who still have seizures, there are children who are seizure-free who also still have pretty severe behavioral issues. So we also have to look at that as an issue for our families. And here's just another post. So quickly, I don't want to go too long here because we are on a time schedule. We launched our Pediatric Epilepsy Surgery Registry in late February. It was a labor of love is one phrase I would use to describe it. It was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I'm just a mom. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not a statistician. I'm not mathy, and that was really difficult. Again, poor Dr. Fala regrets the day we walked into his office for a shunt revision, and now he's on our registry advisory board and really helped me along tremendously with looking at the questions and all of this. So we have, oh shoot, how do I go back? We're only primarily looking at the developmental trajectory. So this is a patient-powered registry where parents of children ages 0 to 17 respond to the registry. We're looking at the developmental trajectory of the child. We have some what's called PROMIS measurements in there. So they're, what is the name for that? PROMIS is patient-reported outcome measurement surveys that are validated. Is that what it is? And then, but we also have a lot of questions that we came up with that are really, really granular on things like, can your child read? At what age do they start to read? Do they recognize words? Do they recognize sentences? Do they speak age appropriately? Do they sleep? For how long do they sleep? Kind of all of the things that we find as parents to be very challenging. So far, we have 175 consented, which is really exciting for us. I was hoping for 250 total, and we would be asking parents to respond on an annual basis to these questions so that we can have a long-term study on the developmental trajectory. So we're already at 175, so now we want 1,000, because I think it would be a really powerful study if we had 1,000 families. We do have some incomplete responses, and again, I'm not a data scientist, so he's working on that now, but I thought I'd just give you a little bit of a taste of what the registry is saying so far. Wrong way. I need my 9-year-old with me. He would help me. So here are the responses. Most of them are US, but we have it trickling in from around the world. I was just in Argentina at their Pediatric Epilepsy Surgery Conference, and we have our registry that is being translated right now into Spanish, and we have good alignment with the Flenny Institute, Hemispherectomy Foundation, Argentina, and some rare epilepsy orgs down there. So I hope to increase the Spanish-speaking population there, and then we're working on GDPR compliance so that we can launch in EU countries. And I'm so thankful that I used to practice law, because my really good friend who works for this law firm, his friend is their GDPR lead counsel, so he's providing us with free advice on compliance for that. It's mostly mothers responding to the registry, which I think is really interesting. We still kind of carry the weight of the care down to participating in scientific research, primarily non-Hispanic or Latino, so we have a lot of bias in our registry. It's mostly Caucasian parents that are responding to this, so we have to fix that. Gender breakdown of the child, about 50-50 there. Here are all the conditions. This is already a landmark study for hemimegalencephaly. So I have not been able to find one really good study on the developmental trajectory after hemimegalencephaly, and we're already at 44. So we hope to get that Holly rate to about 100 to really make it powerful. 43 cortical dysplasia, Rasmussen's encephalitis only at 15, but we're working on that. I have kids too, so it makes it hard to really get this going. Number of anti-epileptic drugs taken at the time of the surgical evaluation, I was really happy to see that most were at about 2 when they were referred to surgery. So it looks like we're starting to make some inroads in terms of making sure parents get that surgical evaluation after 2 failed meds, which is what the ILA says we're supposed to do. Current state of seizures, about 75% are saying they're not having seizures. So that is trending with what current published research says, which is for most of these surgeries, we're looking at about a 75% seizure control rate. Very powerful stat here. Has your child's quality of life improved? Quite a bit. So that was the highest that you could have is quite a bit. So again, that means these surgeries do help. At the end of the day, the parents are very happy that they had them. I've personally met very few who regret having the surgery. I think what bothers us is not really understanding what to do for your child afterwards. Do you wish surgery was presented as an option sooner? Quite a bit. 54% say, yeah, we do. We wish we had known about this. This is big for us, both personally. Hydrocephalus almost killed my son a few years ago. 25% have developed hydrocephalus postoperatively. Most of those are hemispherectomy families, obviously, and the average is 33 months out. So that big study in 2013, I think, that said that the average was about 90 days, our data is showing differently. Why? Because anecdotally, I can tell you in Facebook that we're having families that are reporting hydrocephalus developing 5, 10, 15 years after surgery. What does that mean for the clinicians in the room, the neurologists and the neurosurgeons? I think it just means that you say to a family, you're never out of the woods. This is something you always have to check for. And when you go to the ER, that doctor doesn't say, oh, there's no chance that this is hydrocephalus because, it's 10 years out. That's not what we're seeing. Etiologies there are that should say surgery. So it's primarily the hemispherectomy kids. Expressive communication after left resection, we see that, all right, yeah, as expected, left resection, not clearly or age appropriately using language, only a few words, vocalizes, uses an AAC device. Only about 14% are speaking clearly and age appropriately. Language is a left lateralized function primarily, so that's probably what you expect. My slides are out of order, so have grace. Sorry, I got ready in the dark, remember that. 26%, so we have questions that say, did you see an orthopedic surgeon before surgery? Do you see an orthopedic surgeon after surgery? So almost 27% need to see an orthopedic surgeon afterwards. So again, the hemiparesis is starting to have implications that would impact them to the point where they need to start seeing a surgeon. Endocrine. Did you see an endocrinologist before surgery? No. About almost 15% need to see an endocrinologist postoperatively. So anecdotally, we see things like precocious puberty, central diabetes insipidus, that kind of thing that may start to develop. Is it happening because of hydrocephalus? That's something we'd like to understand. I know my son developed central diabetes insipidus years out of his surgery. We think now because of pressure on the hypothalamus caused by hydrocephalus. Is that happening here? That is something that we'd like to tease out in the registry as well. Again, sorry, these are mixed up. Reading ability, left resection, we see significant challenges, moderate challenges, quite a big percent that have trouble. Dr. Musa, in your paper as well, I think only 40% of children read appropriately according to their parents after hemispherectomy, and this is showing that, yes, it's a big problem. Literacy is a left lateralized function, as Dr. Christodoulou will share with us today. But look at this, even after right-sided surgeries, these children will also have trouble with literacy acquisition. And this is a core initiative for us at the organization. I would say it's our primary core initiative is to make sure as best as possible that these children can learn how to read, because illiteracy is really something that's very difficult to live with for the rest of your life, whether it's a basic literacy or ensuring that they receive the intensive interventions in school, which is why we have a special education advocacy division. So again, you would think that you would only have reading problems after left, but no, they're also having the problems after right, which is important for us to understand. Expressive communication, as expected, a problem after left resection, but it is also a problem after right resection. With some children using assistive communication devices, only able to vocalize. And you'll note that this is not including children who don't speak because of their age, so we took those out. So these are all children who should be speaking in terms of their age and are struggling with it. Yeah. And that's it. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for flying in at 4 a.m. this morning, washing your face and walking in the door. Please keep this informal. There are a lot of really important people in here in terms of parents who are nervous about being here. They may have never met a neuroscientist in the world, and I want them to feel as empowered to tell you what they believe, what they feel, what they want for our children. And neuroscientists, if you would drill down the fancy language and make it easy for us to understand what you're talking about today, because at the end of the day, I think everybody in this room wants what's best for these kids. So thank you for coming.